What is going on, guys, and welcome back to the show. So today is a very interesting episode. I've never done a solo episode. I kind of just, I've always wanted to do this. I've always wanted to kind of try myself, see if I could push myself into a situation where I could just do a full, show, just me. I got some show notes. I got some interesting things to talk about, some news, crazy things going on, conspiracy. I'll try not to talk about cars too much accidentally. I'm sure it'll slip in, but the car news lately has been pretty whack. There's no new cars that are exciting coming out. I don't know if that's a election year thing or if it's a, if it's a summer thing or what, but the car market is super boring right now. If you follow my main YouTube channel, you can call it that, Cooper Bogetti, I've done a couple shows, videos where I kind of talk about some specific topics. Here I'm a little bit gonna more ramble, I would say, where I don't know what I'm gonna talk about. I am a big political junkie, news junkie. I go to war every now and then, not actual war, but battle with people on the internet that I disagree with. I've gotten into fights with, people in the UBI space, people in the motorcycle space, just internet shills in general. I tend to get into war with them, and they kind of deserve it. Maybe I deserve it too. Maybe they're at war with me. Maybe they don't know. They probably don't. Harley riders that ride in the summer when people are mowing their lawn, they might know about me. I've ruffled their feathers, their grass clippings pretty freaking aggressively. So they definitely know, I would say, that there's there's something going on there. They don't like me, I would say. But there's a lot going on. I promised Bronte on this episode I would not talk about Israel, so that's the only time you're going to hear me say it. Maybe, likely. Yeah, I'll try not to. I'm already ruining it. But I have some information at the end of this episode about Boeing, some whistleblower stuff, so stay tuned for that. That should be really fun. There's a lot going on, guys. I don't know if anybody else follows this GameStop stuff. I've been following it pretty heavily, and that's pretty fun to watch potentially the fabric of Wall Street break down in front of us via GameStop, the worst retailer I've ever stepped foot in. Anytime I left, I would walk in with $1,000 worth of games and leave with $8, and they are the people that are going to break down Wall Street. It just doesn't make much sense to me. I do understand GameStop's need, and, they're sitting on a pile of cash. They have no debt. I don't know who's going into GameStop. I don't know if they're just selling a lot of games online. I haven't bought a video game since I was 12 years old, so I don't know where any of this money or support is coming from. It doesn't make much sense, but now they have a bunch of 40-year-old incels that are all just chomping at the bit to make something happen. And I think a lot of people are in that situation where you feel like you're stuck. You live in your 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom apartment, or you live in a room with your wife, and you just want to the government and Wall Street and financial sector is pressing in on you, and you feel like you want to retaliate somehow. It feels like the outlet has been GameStop, and I think GameStop is the move. It was AMC a little bit, but I think people have lost the AMC love, and I'm sure there's more details behind it, how much shorts people have and how they can squeeze the shorts and all that kind of mumbo jumbo that only one man in this world understands, and his name is Roaring Kitty. That's him. He owns likely at market open on Monday today, likely owns $1 billion in assets. Yeah, can you believe that? He started with 50 grand, invested it well in GameStop. I'd imagine he had to rug pull and then put back in just to drop stock and then get it back. I don't know how it all works, but he's obviously much smarter at this than me, or he just saw something we didn't. Maybe it's one of those situations where like somebody went back in time and told him to do this type of deal. Like there's a good chance that somebody like Arnold Schwarzenegger showed up and he was like, Roaring Kitty, you must invest $50,000 in GameStop right now and post about it on Reddit for the next 6 months. And then you will amass this huge following and you will topple the entire government using an obscure stock like GameStop that nobody's even thinking about. You watch, you do it. And then on X, which is the best platform ever. We'll talk about that in a minute. X is the best platform ever. Elon Musk purchased Twitter from Jack Dorsey, mostly from Saudi Arabians, I believe. But Jack Dorsey is no longer involved. That's been a long time now. But X, it's all kind of broken on there. I think it started on Reddit, but Reddit's kind of lame. So I would prefer to go on X where it's a little more wide open. Reddit, I think people can hide a little bit too much behind a screen name. I don't go on Reddit really. Sometimes I go on there just to watch people get made fun of because it's fun for that. But yeah, X, it's kind of all broken on there. And then it's fun watching the people that are knocking it because like they're like, it's stupid. Everybody that's in it's going to lose all their money. And then you click them and they're like, investment banker at something's investment firm, like just whatever investment firm, and they probably have a line of credit from, you know, Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan or something like that, and they've invested in shorts of GameStop, and now they're trying to like, you know, they're sweating and they're trying to like get people to pull their money out because if they got a squeeze and called on their shorts, they're going to lose a huge amount of money, but if they hold diamond hand it on the bottom side, I don't know if this is making any sense. If it's how I understand it, they're kind of on the bottom side, everybody else is on the top side. Shorting a stock is kind of scummy, in my opinion. I've always felt that, but they're just kind of waiting and hoping that this guy, Roaring Kitty, doesn't hold until all the options have to get called, and then once that happens, they're all screwed. So that's how I see it, at least. I'm sure it won't work out that way. I'm sure it'll get close to happening, and the SEC will step in and be like, actually, guys, this was all a glitch. Everything was a glitch. Roaring Kitty never existed. You've all been MK Ultra'd. It's all fake. Elon Musk lied to you. Something like that. They're going to say like they're going to come out with like aliens again. They're going to be like, actually, guys, aliens. And then everybody's going to get distracted and stop thinking about him. And then they're going to secretly JFK him, likely. JFK, MLK, one of those guys, you know, Malcolm X. They're gonna get him like that, you know, where they take you out back in broad daylight and they take you out. That's the go-to move. Or who else has been taken out pretty good? JFK is probably the most notable. Lincoln, that's probably a good one too. Lincoln was definitely taken out in somewhat broad daylight. You know, John Wilkes Booth got him. JFK, he was clearly taken out by one of his own, you know. It's crazy that he created the Secret Service and then Lincoln created the Secret Service and then was immediately killed, I believe. So one of those two. One of them did that. I can't remember. History is all a blur. It's all made up anyways. I mean, time is just kind of nothingness in a way. That sounds like the worst. That sounds like a quote from the worst person to hang out with ever. When they say, I knew somebody like this where basically they would be late to everything, and then they kind of were one of those people that like they read a bunch of books. They would talk about like, you know, they would be like, the Quran's actually like really a good read. Like that, you know, they would say that just because they wanted you to know, like, oh, you read the Quran, like, cool. They would only say it for that reason, not any other like deeper meaning, just so that you would understand that they read it. That type of person. Kind of like the guy that I have a dictionary and a Bible right there. Same type of person. But they would they would say like they would be late to everything, and they were well educated, but they would be late to everything, and then they would start to try to like gaslight you to be like, well, you know, time is just this weird linear thing, and like we all have such a weird definition of time. Like if we didn't have watches or clocks, would we even ever be late? Like who even thought of time? And I would just like sit there like the freaking sun. Like what? It would frustrate me so much. And I was probably like 14 years old, and I was like, you know, around older adults. This was a woman, and she would just say these like insane things, and like people would just like think like, oh wow, that's so deep. Like no, like you can tell time. Like I'll put a stick in the sand, and I'll tell you which way north is, and I'll tell you what time it is. Like this is not a obscure concept here. I'm not really sure. Yeah, I don't know where she's at now. She's probably involved in Hamas somehow. Oh God, I'm going down that route. Oh God, I need to reverse. Okay, so yeah, where was I? Yeah, so crypto's kind of dead. GameStop is all people care about. Crypto is more of just a hold of value now. It's the worst currency of all time, and I've said this for the past 4 years now. I was very long on crypto for a long time, and then I started to realize that it will never actually be a currency. So I started to get a little frustrated by it. This whole when it came out, when I first started messing with it in like 2012, when I was just finishing high school, I was like, cool, this is going to be the new currency. Everybody's going to be paying people on it. The IRS isn't going to track it. Like, we're going to topple the regime. The government won't know what to do. And now I'm a bitter old man, and I'm just like, it's never going to happen. It's just like holding gold. And then one day, a president's going to show up like FDR and say, guess what? It's illegal to have gold. You need to turn in your $80 worth of gold, and I'll give you $8. And then you're going to be like, darn, I got. You know, that's how it works. If you wait, if you hold long enough, somebody just takes it from you. If you diamond hand long enough, it just gets taken from you by force by a government official. It's always happened, and it will happen again. There's never been, I don't know, anything they want, they really just take. So, I don't know. Do you really just keep diamond handing, or do you just spend it? You know, people in the 40s probably wanted to hand that gold down to their children, and then they were like, cool, the government's going to just pay me for it and make it illegal. I don't know how people were okay with that, but they handed in their gold, and then all in like the same amount of time, it was like, hand in your gold, Federal Reserve, what is it? Income tax, and we're sending 19 million children to fight in a war in a foreign country you've never heard of. Whoa. Okay. Sorry, I'm going down the rabbit hole of history. I get so frustrated by World War II. There's so much to it, and we only know the surface of it. D-Day just happened, and I was talking online with somebody, and I was saying they were posting the pictures of the children going to fight in D-Day. Like these were legitimate children. We all know this. We've seen this. They're children. And he was like basically saying it's going to happen again, and I was kind of frustrated by that. I have a son who's 5 months old, and the last thing I want to hear is that he might be drafted to go fight a war for bankers in another country. It doesn't make any sense. So I was kind of frustrated. I said, if that ever happens, it's a failure on me and everyone else in my generation. If my son has to go fight in a war, especially like that, if he is storming a beach where he's just getting shot at by foreign adversaries so that he can help communists. I don't know what to tell you. That's a huge failure on all of our parts. If it gets to that level, if people can't sit down and have conversations and it ends up at a level where we're storming Normandy Beach or we're nuking hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians and burning down, Tokyo and blowing up Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Like, if it gets to that level, we have all failed. And I think a lot of people like to forget, don't realize that getting to a point where it's a worldwide war is a failure of leadership, because there's ways to talk things out. I will always believe that. Or there's ways to avoid conflict, especially in these. I mean, before World War II started, I think it was like 80% before Pearl Harbor, I think like 89% of the U.S. population didn't want to go to war. So FDR needed something like that to happen so that we ended up in World War II. And even Churchill was so excited when it happened. He was happy that the U.S. lost a couple thousand Navy officers, naval men, whatever, operators. And he was excited about this because he said basically Hitler just lost the war because now the U.S. has to join in. So Japan attacked us and we went to fight in Europe. That doesn't make sense in itself. And then I'm getting pretty frustrated. I don't know how much I'm sure everybody knows World War II history. I don't need my tinfoil hat on for this, but there's so much. Obviously, it's all written by us, what we learn, what they learn in other countries looks so different. So it's just a crazy situation. I don't know how to even navigate it sometimes, because what I learned growing up in school is not what I agree with now, and I don't know why they taught it like this. They taught us, like, when I was in high school, we took probably a full semester and a half on just FDR, the president during World War II. He served, 4 terms, died in office, and then Truman came in and nuked 2 countries in 2 cities. So we basically did a full semester on his New Deal and then how he got people out of poverty and all this stuff. And then you look back through a different lens and you're like, wait, most economists don't even agree with his New Deal working. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. I don't know why we're taught it this way. And I don't know. Makes me want to homeschool CJ because, not that I know more than any teacher that ever taught me. I probably don't. But they taught a lot of bullshit, and it's very frustrating. So when I say end the DOE, Department of Education, right? It's not the Department of Energy, right? DOE is that Department of whatever. End the Department of Education, the education system. Stop funding it. You see, I went to public school. This is why I don't know this stuff, because I went to public school. So it's frustrating for me to try to use my brain, because it's been just brainwashed by halogen lights and 8 hours a day sitting in an uncomfortable chair, versus now I spend 8 hours a day sitting in a decently comfortable chair with a laptop in my face. That's so much healthier. I can't understand why they thought that was healthy for me as a kid with severe ADHD to sit there and just kind of, screw off or whatever I was doing. There was 20 kids, 4 of them were paying attention. Almost all of them were addicted to some sort of opiate by the end of the, 4 years of high school. And I don't know where they're all at now. I don't know if I'm unique on this, but I basically as soon as I graduated high school, didn't talk to anyone else from my high school. Like, they probably thought that Cooper is gone. He died. Like, he's gone. You know, he's a failure. He's probably dead somewhere in a ditch. R.I.P. Tough break. I don't talk to any of them. So it was just kind of natural, maybe. I don't know if that was on purpose. I don't know. It's interesting, but maybe some other people are like that. But I moved to Florida from New York, from Long Island. Long Island is one of the best geographical locations. I don't know why this is. So the best geographical locations often end up being ruined and just trashed. Like Long Island, most of it is ruined and nasty and trash. It's got the best beaches in the world. The summers are the best. Like the whole Northeast, like like the summer in the Northeast is some of the best time of year. The winter isn't too bad in Long Island because it's surrounded by water, so it kind of, keeps it from getting too cold and too snowy, so that's nice. But then they just get ruined. Like the whole coast of California, ruined. Like people love Portland, Oregon, ruined. Like the mountains, you go to Colorado and Denver and it's just like ruined. I don't know if there's a correlation here, but it's rough. And then Florida, it's boring, it's flat, it's hot, it's humid. There's some good beaches around here. But it's not ruined yet. It's probably on its way. It's definitely creeping up on being ruined. And I've driven all across the U.S. Like I've been to towns, I don't know, what would you call where I'm at? It's like maybe 200,000 people, 500,000 people in this like tight area. So I don't know. It's like it's not quite the suburb of Tampa, but it's like a small city, I guess you could call it. And they're all the same. You have your bad area, you have your downtown, you have your good area, you have your expensive area, you got your dump, you got your kind of country area, you got the same restaurants, you got the same Chipotle takeout. I think even the same people work there. Like when you walk in, it's like Disney. The same music is playing everywhere. Anywhere you go in Disney, it's the same song playing at every spot at the same time. I think it's the same at Chipotle. It's the same employee somehow, like cloned or just like identical employee. It's all the same. The Burger King sucks, but there's a better McDonald's up the street. Though just go to Chick-fil-A. Like it's legitimately all the same. If it's 500,000 people, 100,000 people, that area, it's the same. I just saved you a lot of money in traveling. You really have no need to travel unless you're going like off the grid, like to like a mountain or like a valley or like to the beach or something. It's not even worth it. Like maybe you're going to visit your grandma an hour away. It's the same. I go to visit my grandma an hour away and I'm like, oh, it's just a different road names. Okay, fine. And I don't hate it. I get it. Like it's monotonous. Wow. I don't think I'll ever get that word. I can say it in my head, but I can't say it out loud. So you guys know how that is sometimes. Wow. Holy crap. My brain, I think I've just had a stroke. But you guys know what I'm trying to say. It's all the same, and it's just like a same layout. I would just avoid travel altogether. The economy sucks everywhere. There's unhappy people everywhere. Maybe you can go somewhere and there's different gun rights or like different abortion laws or different, maybe there's like a pride parade somewhere that you won't find in Texas. Like maybe if that's what you're traveling for, but like go for like the mountains or the valleys or the streams or from the river to the ocean, one of those type of deals, that saying that everybody chants, that they're paid to chant or something. Something like that. Like, I don't know. Otherwise, there's no need to travel at all. You go to like, Ohio and you're going to look around, and if there's no snow on the ground, you're like, there's no palm trees, so I know I'm not in Florida, but I feel like I know where the Applebee's is for some reason. I feel like I know, like, I feel like blindfolded, you put me in like an area with that amount of people, that population size and density in the US, I'm gonna find the Cracker Barrel. Like, I'm gonna find it. Like, it'll naturally come to me where the Panda Express is. And it's just how it is. Like, you know, I always say, if you want to travel somewhere, just go to Vegas. They have everything. It's better. It's like, it's usually cleaner. I mean, I think it's all failing right now. I think Vegas is going to collapse, and you might be able to buy like the Wynn for like $100,000. So we'll see how that works out. I don't know. I think they don't have any more water. I think the Hoover Dam is basically going to dry up. Lake Mead is just going to disappear and shrivel up into nothing, and people in Vegas won't get out in time. I think that's how I understood it. It's going to be like Fallout, where they end up like, oh no, we don't have enough water to get out of here and we're stuck. What do we do? And they're going to like, we're going to have to like airdrop them water or something, or like somebody farther up the Colorado River is going to have to open a dam and let water go to the, you know, Lake Mead, so that the people in Vegas can be debaucherous still and not be affected by the lack of water. Something like that. I don't know. Maybe the pool parties will stop. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've been to Vegas. It's cool, but it's definitely an experience type of place. I would recommend it. It's worth it. Speaking of other things that are being ruined, has anybody watched any Star Wars movies lately? I don't understand why all the movie franchises I liked growing up are completely destroyed. Like, completely ruined. And they're not even destroyed by like woke ideology. They're just destroyed by like bad writing and like bad acting and like bad lore, and just like, it's just like, ugh. Like, I know Mad Max just came out and it's bombing at the box office. They're like $50 million off from what they needed to make still. And like, Star Wars is basically irrelevant. You have Luke Skywalker on Twitter posting just like the most heinous things you've ever seen, and just like, I think he's actually got COVID brain and he's just completely lost it. That's actually a mental disorder that a lot of people are getting now, and I think he might have it because he's showing some signs of he's lost it. So whatever that guy's name is, Luke Skywalker, he's pretty much only ever known for Star Wars, but and then Marvel has completely shit the bed. They had this big build-up thing with Endgame and Infinity War and all this. They had all these people, and then they all died off, and then they replaced them with potentially the worst thing you'd ever want to watch. Like, it's not even, like, and it's really not even about it being woke. Like, it's just not good. Like, yes, a full cast of women superheroes doesn't make sense when you think about it logically, because, you know, like, they can't all be lesbian women. It just, mathematically, it's almost impossible. But even I can get past that, but make it good. I watched Madame Web the other day, and I couldn't even understand it. I couldn't even fathom how they spent money. They spent real U.S. currency to make something so heinous that Netflix is probably, like, when it's right to Netflix, like, it's been in the theaters for like 2 weeks, and then it's right to Netflix, and then Netflix is like, it's not going to be here long. You know it's dog shit. And that was grade A dog shit. I was just could not fathom what I was watching. They had like just the worst screen acting I've ever seen. It just made me hate every person there. I was rooting for the bad guy from the start. I was like, man, I really hope this guy kills these 3 women. That would really make this way more interesting. I usually don't root for that's not true. I kind of rooted for Dr. Octopus a lot in Spider-Man, but I usually try not to root for the bad guy because it makes me seem like a freaking supervillain. But man, they make it hard to like them. And it is what it is. I mean, I don't know if anything could save Marvel. Maybe if they just like, they were just kind of like, guess what? It's an alternative timeline and everybody you like is back. And it's not lame. And there's cool stuff actually happening. But I think that ship has sailed. I think all movies now going forward are going to be shit. I think everything you watch is going to be an off-the-cuff, long-form podcast or video that somebody filmed on a cell phone, because without DVD sales, these businesses just cannot make good content. I think the last of the good movies was probably Shrek. That's probably where it started to teeter off, I would say. I don't know when Shrek came out, maybe 2004, something like that, but that's pretty much where it started to teeter off, I would say, where cinema started to turn. And then Star Wars, like, no one's watching that. George Lucas, if George Lucas doesn't blow his brains out, I will be surprised. I mean, I don't think anybody would fault him for going to Disney and being like, what is going on here? Why are you doing this? Why do you hate me so much that my legacy is you guys turning my movies into the worst? Like, it started out as like, if you just looked at it 5 years ago, it was like, oh, that's potentially the best trilogy of all time. And now if you look at it as a whole, you're like, that is potentially the worst trilogy of all time. Shout out to J.K. Rowling, right? That's her name, from who wrote the Harry Potter. She's pretty tough. I doubt she's letting anything happen to her work. She is not letting, magic Star Wars get destroyed, because she stands up for it. If you follow her, she's pretty aggressive. I mean, if you just look her up in the news lately, she's always on the level of cancellation, which is pretty funny. She's came at some pretty good people, I do enjoy watching her roast anyone that doesn't know what gender they are. Maybe that's where we should leave it off. I don't know how much I can say on YouTube here. I could probably say a lot more on Spotify, but there's a lot more I'd like to say. Sorry. Yeah, so I mean, it's sad, My son, CJ, I think about this a lot. Like, he's gonna grow up with, like, either I watch like classic movies, which, I didn't want to watch. Like, my dad used to watch like old Western movies all the time, and they were like black and white, or like almost black and white. I don't know if you know what movies I'm talking about, where it's like it's so badly colored that you're like, maybe that's black and white. Like, I mean, it was all tan and like blue jeans, so it's hard to really know for certain, but it was pretty black and white. And then you would watch this, and like, I didn't want to watch those. They were horrible. It was like Clint Eastwood badly acting with, like, maybe not Clint Eastwood. It was probably him, but like, he would kind of like play the same thing at all times. Like, it was one of those where there was a channel and it was perpetual looping, Western movies, and you couldn't tell where one ended and one began. It was just like this conglomerate of like, tough guy with a gun, and you didn't even know the plot, because they were just like, it was almost like a DJ mixing songs where like they don't end the song, they start the next one. It felt like they were like, DJ mixing in these movies together, and then you would just kind of like, it would jump cut almost, where you're like, oh shit, and now like, who's that on the horse? Like, that's how it always felt to me. I was 5 years old, so I mean, it's hard for me to grasp much at the time, but that was my perception of it. That it was just 24 hours of just like blob of movie. But to get back to my point, I don't know what CJ is gonna get to enjoy. He probably like I doubt we're gonna sit down and watch Jaws. As good of a movie as that is one of my favorites. He's probably not gonna watch that. I doubt he's gonna watch Indiana Jones. I doubt he's gonna watch, Goonies or like Ghostbusters or like, what are some of these other ones I was just talking about? Like even like the later Marvel's obviously a different generation than those, but like, the early Marvel stuff, like the first transform the Terminator series, like things like that. John Connor, he was almost named John Connor for that reason, because I'm such a I wouldn't say Terminator fan. I'm more of a Skynet enthusiast ish. Yeah, so that's kind of where it comes down to, where I like the idea that Skynet is gonna basically end humanity, and somebody might come busting through that door and tell me he's a Austrian bodybuilder and he's from the future to, save me, and then we're gonna have to, go run for governor of California or something like that. That's one of the running theories I dream about. Like sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, what was that? Are we running for governor? I don't know how that even happened, Like how did he become governor of California? What a timeline. That Arnold Schwarzenegger, the movie star, was governor of California. He might watch Die Hard, Being as he was born around Christmas time, we may watch Die Hard together, and maybe a couple other of that, that genre of, tough guy, off-duty cop saves everyone. There's a good amount of that genre. Maybe like a Starsky and Hutch type of thing. That's a whole thing in itself. Is like it's funny because in like the 80s and 90s and like 2000, it was like, man, like an off-duty cop would really save everyone. And now you're like, man, like those on-duty cops hardly do anything. Like, boy, has things changed. And I come from a family of law enforcement. I have 3 grandfathers, one still with us, and all 3 of them were NYPD in the 70s, 80s, 90s. They were all NYPD, mounted transit, and just kind of patrol officer. So I come from law enforcement, so I understand. And one of my grandparents, the mounted, he was a cop. Like doesn't take any shit. Like he was horseback, baton, helmet. Like he probably clubbed some people, like I'm sure of it, I would say. And then my other grandpa was more of the, if he hears there's gunshots uptown, he's not going there, because that's not how he liked to operate. And a lot of cops are like that. He was he was a cop that wrote tickets and that kind of thing. He wasn't a go get in a shootout type of cop. And I never really blamed him for that growing up. He was like, that's not why I joined the force. And I never really talked to him about it, but I assumed a lot of it was to not go to Vietnam. And, that seemed like the move at the time was either, you join the force or you go fight in the swamp against communists so that America could have its freedom. Because if we didn't go fight in Vietnam, the Vietnamese people that lived in the woods and farmed were going to get on boats and come over to the U.S. and steal our freedom. I think that was the concept behind it. I don't know if that would have ever happened if had we not sent, 18-year-old kids to go fight there. I don't know if that would have happened, but it appears that that's what they thought was going to happen. So maybe, man, this is my second anti-war rant in this episode. So if you guys now you guys know, if I talk for too long, it starts to become anti-government, anti-war, anti-new movies. I'm pretty much just, I hate everything. I'm a 90-year-old man trapped in a almost 30-year-old person's body. But maybe we can move on to something a little less maybe a little less boring. I don't know, maybe a little less anti-war. So have you guys followed MH370? So for those that don't know, Malaysian Airlines 370 was flying from, oh man, I don't really have these details. I thought I did. Was flying from like Malaysia to Australia and diverted course randomly and then suddenly disappeared. And now all these years later, like 14 years later or something, 10 years later, people are starting to dig up all this footage that I don't know where it came from. I guess maybe it's being declassified or people are just finally coming out with it. But like, there's footage of 3 glowing orbs flying around it. I guess there's satellite footage, but there's like multiple satellite footage. I don't know. First off, when I saw that, I was like, is there just satellite footage on like heat satellite footage on everything in the world at all times? Because they have perfect crystal clear footage of this airplane. I don't know if they knew it was missing and saw it, but basically there's 3 orbs circling it in a DNA type of, what do they call that? The helix, in the helix type of pattern. And then you can actually see it going through the trail, and then suddenly the plane disappears. And from my understanding, we've never found any remnants of this plane. So either 2 things happened. Either Raytheon took it, the government, probably a private contractor, because when the government pays private contractors to do things, they get to keep things a lot more secret than if they did them themselves. So probably paid like Lockheed Martin or Raytheon, and like they had these like Tic Tacs, and then they were just like, we got them. I don't know what they were trying to get. I think there was a guy on there that was basically, he held like a patent for something, if I remember right. I think I remember hearing that at the time. I don't remember if that's come out yet, but he had like the patent for some kind of technology that was going to change the world. Of course he did. The Malaysian, scientist that was going somewhere, of course, the one plane that disappeared, naturally. But you can see these orbs take this plane and it's just gone. And then you even see the orbs flying through the trail. Like they're, you could see the heat, whatever it is, like there's like 2 black lines coming off of the turbines from the plane, and you can see them going through it. So like it's clearly in quotes not doctored footage. But of course, it could be all doctored and it could all be fake, and somebody could be psyopsing me just so that I waste my time looking at MH370 that disappeared 10 years ago looking for answers, just so that, they could, without me knowing, send $800 billion to a foreign country while I'm sitting here not paying attention. They could be doing that, but I'm hooked. I'm watching MH370 like it just happened. And I don't know who did it. I mean, I don't know where the plane could have went. Did they just make it invisible and then they landed somewhere? I mean, invisibility is not something that the government hasn't worked on for years. I mean, if you look at the Manhattan Project and the Montauk Project, they were working on that in, Cold War times. They were trying to cloak ships from the naked eye. They weren't trying to just make them radar invisible. They were trying to make them invisible. Like not just invisible to radar. Think about that. like actually invisible. And the story goes, so this is tangent, but this is where I think if you trace it back, I should put on my tinfoil hat. If you trace back Cooper Boghetti's lineage of his tinfoil hatting, you will get to the Montauk Project and Camp Hero. And now, Camp Hero and the Montauk Project are early military experiments that were happening on the tip of Long Island, far out where nobody could see, and they were working with, it was, you know, atomic bomb era, that kind of stuff, and there were so many secret projects going on. People were trying the craziest things back then, like people were trying to remote view, they were trying to MK Ultra. They were doing basically anything in their power at the time to just get a leg up on the Nazis. They were doing anything. They would have sent somebody, you know, to the moon without anything, just, you know, barefoot, if they thought that it could possibly get them a leg up. They would have been like, well, we learned that a human freezes and explodes. I don't think it'll help us fight Hitler, but we learned it. And they would just try anything, it felt like. So they built this giant radar tower, the second largest radar tower ever constructed. They turned it on for 2 days, and all the cattle in Montauk died. All of them died. And then they turned it off. They were using this to potentially, you know, be the first line of defense if anybody was coming over from Europe, you know, any U-boats or anything like that. That was our first, like, hopefully our first indicator, but I think obviously it was trying to do more. I think it was trying to put out a signal that could potentially take out this kind of stuff. And even, you know, Long Island has a long history of this because, you know, if you look back a little bit, Nikola Tesla was, you know, he was doing his experiments on Long Island as well. His projects of free energy and his big Tesla coil that could put so much energy out into the atmosphere that it would charge your phone. I mean, obviously it wasn't a phone at the time, but, like, you know, it would light a light bulb just, you know, if you just held it up, and it would charge your phone, and everybody would have free energy. And of course you can't have everybody having free energy because then nobody makes any money off of it. So he was taken out as well. That's how it goes. People get taken out in this world. A lot of people get taken out. I think that's I think that was a bigger problem I think it's a smaller problem now than it used to be, but I think people still get taken out, maybe replaced. I don't think that's P. Diddy. Doesn't look like him. I think that's someone else. But that's where my conspiracy theory stuff started. I grew up near this base and heard all these stories. And then, you know, 20 years later, after hearing these stories, things like Stranger Things comes out based off of the Montauk Project and things that were happening there. And they had these bunker system that was just unreal, and huge rooms and huge radar towers and so much secretive and guns, and, like, it was secretive stuff. So that's where it all started, and it's only fostered from there. Sorry, I got a dip pouch in. I don't know if anybody's ever had these Grinds coffee pouches, but they're pretty delicious. Yeah, so that's where it all started. Obviously, I was just a kid, but anytime there'd be like a school project or something where they're like, you can do your school project on anything, I would always do it on the Montauk Project. I would do it on, like, the Montauk Monster that washed up on shore that was clearly just a dog. I would do it on anything that any time I could squeeze in the only conspiracy I knew, that I would do it. And I would research it any way I could. Like, computers just started to be a thing. Like, you know, this was 2006, 2005 or 6. So, like, yeah, the internet wasn't what it is today. So, you know, you would see, like, these shady websites that would talk about it, and, like, the same picture over and over again and like a couple JPEGs of like, some sketchy photo and writing. And then you would like, as a kid and I'm like in fifth grade reading about like, like different ways of thinking about how World War II was. And I'm like, I don't know what to believe. I'm hearing one thing from my teachers, and then I'm like reading another thing for these school projects. And then what are you gonna do a school project that goes against everything you learned in history? Or like you're gonna like it didn't make much sense. Not go against everything you learned in history, but like have a different look at the things that you're currently learning is a little odd at the time, and maybe it is still now, but some of my teachers definitely didn't appreciate that I would shoehorn that into every situation. And even currently, I shoehorn a good conspiracy into every situation. I was at breakfast with Garrett today, and I was harassing him. I was like, so now that you're in the pilot club, what's in the sky, dude? Why does that happen? What are they putting in the fuel? Why is there those trails? Why are they trying to kill me? Who is paying you? Why do you not see the curvature of the earth ever? All those kind of things. I'm just kind of poking at him, trying to get the secrets, because I know once you become a pilot, you get your card, and then they're like, it's kind of like, becoming the Skull and Bones Society, where it's like, now we're going to tell you our secrets. And then they tell you all the secrets, and they're like, you can't tell any normies or else you'll lose your license and we'll beat you up or something. I don't know. I don't think they'll kill you. I don't think, maybe they threaten death. Could be. I don't know. I've never been part of a club. I've never even had a friendship. So I don't understand. I don't know what what males do when they're, in a agreement like that, of any kind of business agreement or friendship or club. How does the pecking order work? Somebody's got to be in charge, right? I don't know. There's got to be a lot of secret clubs out there in this world. I would love to be invited to one of them, but I have way too big of a mouth to be invited to any of those clubs, like Skull and Bones, or what do they call it? What's that? Whatever the one Alex Jones, busted into. Speaking of which, Alex Jones, I mean, it's not looking good for him. He has liquidated all of his assets. He owes Sandy Hook victims $1.5 billion. That means there's room for the next Alex Jones, the next guy that's going to be conspiracying it up, there on January 6th, rallying people up, talking about the gay frogs, getting sued for $1 billion. Like, somebody's going to have to take that spot. Like, he seems like he's lost it now with this, with how much this is going to cost him. I don't know how you can find somebody $1.5 billion. That's a pretty spicy fine. Maybe he's got that on him. Maybe he can get it from like Elon Musk or something. I know they have some kind of, there's probably 3 levels of connection there. You can go through Rogan or something. I don't know. We should give my buddy Jim Braun a call here real quick. See what he's up to. Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know. There's got to be room for somebody new now, because he doesn't have any. So Jim is up in Iowa right now, and they're competing in Sick Week, the 6th summer. Garrett's on his way up there with Mullet and Sam's new truck with the big blower and everything, the Whipple, full polished Whipple. 6th summer's going on right now, and, well, not right now, but 6th summer, everybody's pretty much gearing up for it right now. I think Monday is when it officially starts, I want to say. But they have the truck up there, and they have El Toro, And they even have Doug's Nova. So I was kind of helping them test. I wasn't helping. I was there when they were testing it. And I don't know where I'm going with this, but fingers crossed. Hoping for the best for my boys. They're racing the big block S10. And then Doug's racing his car, of course. And then my boy Blaine, who's been on the show, is racing is racing El Toro. So he'll probably go like 5.0s, 5.1 on that little 26. I don't know how fast that truck will go. Maybe 850s. Maybe. Big block nitrous car. It should go 850s. Power glide. La Sala driving. It's not green, but, you know, there's a La Sala reference. It's not green, but he could probably still do it. Another thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is drone warfare. So everybody always talks about, you know, gearing up, loading up on firearms, guns, and like bullets and like all this stuff. And I always tell people to buy food, but everybody always talks about that. And they're like, you got to own all these guns and stuff. And like, what if you got to fight the government? And then you look at like Ukraine and you're like, oh shit, they're taking out tanks with $1,500 drones. They are building 3D printed drones in the battlefield with like a cheap chip, GPS chip, or even remote controlled. A lot of them are GPS, and they'll put just like any homemade explosive on there, and they're taking out, you know, millions of dollars worth of equipment for a couple grand, and it's just insane. It's like, oh, you need a 3D printer and drone technology if you want to protect yourself against a tyrannical government. That's what you need to do. Not saying I agree or disagree with either side. I personally, I have no dog in the fight, you know? I don't know how people can agree or disagree with a side when they really have no dog in any fight. I have no dog in any fight. I personally only have a dog in the fight of American citizens stay in America. That's kind of my only stance on any of this. It's like, people will fight around the world. I would prefer if they weren't, you know, my brothers and sisters, if you will, my fellow citizens. That's my only hope. That's it. If you ask me my stance, I'll say, stay out of it. You know, like we don't need to escalate any situation. But aside from that, like we are watching $1,500 drones do what $200,000 Javelin missiles can't do. You know, like when you see a Javelin missile, you know, the missile alone that they shoot is $200,000 to Raytheon. Just like boom, 200,000, boom, 200,000, boom. It's insane. And then even like the Houthis are taking out, you know, I think like a $50,000 drone for us to shoot it out of the sky costs us $2 million. Like those numbers are insane. Like it doesn't make any sense. How can it cost us $2 million to shoot down like a freaking $5,000, $10,000, $50,000 drone that they built in, you know, in the sand or whatever, in the field. You build it in the field and you can keep building them. Like you don't need much to build them. Some chips and a little bit of wiring, a battery, like a couple, like 4 little motors. Like it's so easy to build drones. Like you see these people build them for nothing on the internet. Like I'm sure on YouTube, I'm sure on TikTok right now, you can find a video how to build a drone that can take out a Russian tank. I'm sure you can find that video. And there's probably some guy speaking Ukrainian telling you how to build a drone that will accomplish his goal. I'm sure you can find that, which is pretty crazy. And then you can probably see the video. If you keep scrolling, you're probably, oh, wow. You'll probably scroll to the next one, see like somebody dancing, and then like the next one will see like it in use and like a dead body, because that's how the internet works. It's like you just see maybe I see it on X, maybe my algorithm keeps showing it to me, but I keep seeing tons and tons of victims of wars. I keep seeing, like, everybody's always like, there's so much porn on X, and I'm just like, I only see dead bodies. Like, I long for the porn. Please stop showing me dead bodies. Like, I get it. Like, everybody's like, there's porn, there's porn. I don't see it. I really don't. Maybe every now and then it breaks up the fighting between like somebody fighting and like a dead body, but it's mostly dead bodies, which is, obviously I say that in a somewhat joking manner, but it's the real deal. It's a lot to see. It's a lot for my it's a lot when me and CJ are sitting there looking at my phone scrolling, and I don't think he should see all that. I don't understand why he keeps popping up, but we keep scrolling. I mean, we keep looking. I am excited though because on a positive note, we've had so much dry. It has just been dry, 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 dry. My grass is dying. People keep messaging me. They're like, Cooper, your grass is dying. You have to water it, please. Like, it's your parents. Like, we worry about you. Like, your grass is dying. And I am so ready for a full week of just rain. Like, the weather forecast is just like a straight line of rain, not like any bumps, nothing, just rain. So I'm hoping it does that. I hopefully that doesn't backfire because it seems like a lot of rain. I mean, it's levels to this, you don't just want to wash out your whole driveway. Like, it's almost too dry where it doesn't soak into the ground that well. So I'm a little worried about that. I think it's going to puddle up pretty bad, but we'll see. My shop usually gets pretty wet and flooded when it rains this bad, so I'm a little worried, but we'll see. I'll probably keep you guys updated on that. The videos I've been posting on my main channel, some people have liked them, some people don't. The last one has a lot of angry people. A lot of angry people. I haven't seen that many angry people since my grass clip and stuff, but this is a little more divided. Actually, like, it's 90% against me. Usually, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with being like, standing for what I believe, even if everyone doesn't agree with me. Maybe that sounds like I should change my stance, but I really don't. I really have never felt that way. I've been perfectly fine being the outcast, even if I have to stand alone. Like, I get it. Like, it's my beliefs, and you gotta stand on them sometimes. So it's something I would like to teach my son, and it's something I will definitely try to carry with myself. I always have tried to stand for what I believe in, even if I'm alone. I've said that like 12 times. I'm just patting myself on the back, jerking myself off here. But I basically said the Right to Repair Act is dumb. It's more regulation. It's going to stifle competition in the market. A lot of people have rebutted with like, oh, but it's going to, it's monopolistic, and the car market, they're going to have a monopoly on repairs. I don't believe in monopolies. I don't think that they would exist if the government would stop regulating so much. I think monopolies only exist because of the government. I think if you read, from, some of this Ron Paul's writings, some of the Austrian School of Economics, they don't agree with monopolies being a problem either. If anything, they actually say monopolies are good for the consumer. So, I don't know. I mean, regulation's gonna definitely stifle the competition for auto manufacturers to get into the industry, which I get very frustrated by. We have dwindling amount of manufacturers in this world that make vehicles. Like, it's not getting more. There used to be a lot more. There used to be all these brands, all these different cars, and since safety, since technology, since every regulation you can think of, tariffs, chicken tax, everything like that has just funneled it to where there's like 5 companies that make every car that we drive. Like, it's all a conglomeration, and that's all due to regulation. So more regulation just makes that competition work. Like, we're just getting to the point where like some more cars are starting to break in the market. You know, Tesla's growing. It's got a bigger market cap than Ford. And like, you know, these are growing companies, and like Polestar and what is the other a bunch of them are electric, but like I don't care about that. I just want to see competition in the market, and all this regulation is just gonna keep hurting competition more and more and more. And it's just so frustrating to see people push for regulation when you know deep down inside, I know deep down inside that it's all gonna hurt the consumer in the end of the day, and we're gonna get less choices of what we can buy and own in the end of the day. It's the reason we couldn't import some of these cool cars that we wanted, and it's just gonna make things worse and worse. And I'm very frustrated by that. And I hoped a lot more people would see where I was coming from in that last video, but they didn't. And I understand that. A lot of people just see what they want to see. And, you know, this bill looks like it helps, you know, it looks like it helps the farmers. Like, you know, now you can work on your own tractor and John Deere can't screw you over. But like, the farmers are literally constantly fighting so that they don't get more regulation. But then they turn around and they want the auto industry to have more regulation. So like, if the auto industry was saying farming needs more regulation, they'd be pissed. But they're saying the auto industry needs more regulation, and they don't see a problem with that. So it's like, you guys both need to stop pushing for regulation. Like, that's not the job of the government to come in and help your business. It's not. They're there to just make sure that, you know, we all have the right to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, you know? Like, that's all that the government is there for, is to protect us from the government. That's, in my mind, the only thing that they need to do. They don't need to protect us from business. They don't need to protect us from anything else but other governments and our own. That's it. And if they can't uphold those, they are useless. I'm back into an anti-government rant. Anybody else want to build a wall between the US and Canada? I see a lot of Canadian license plates in Florida, and I start to get really frustrated because they're bad drivers. And I'm a bad driver, you know, often. I do dumb things. I mean, I'm sure we all do, but at least I have a Florida plate. Maybe that makes me feel better. I feel like if you have the plate of the area you're in, you are more justified of being a bad driver. Like, if I was in Canada with a Florida plate being a bad driver, they'd be pissed. But they come down here and they're bad drivers, and we're just supposed to accept it. Like, oh, well, they're just, you know, mentally challenged. It's fine. Like, they have to, like, you can't be mad at them. They're just from Ontario, or they're just from whatever other stupid province name. They have the worst province names, like Newfoundland and like, what is the other one? Saskatchewan. Like, it is the worst. I get it. Like, you named it after the Native Americans that you killed, but like, they're dumb names. And like, I grew up on Long Island where like we had all kinds of Native American names, but they're like small, you know, like they're not like the big name. Like, New York is a European name, and like New Hampshire and like those kind of things, and like Connecticut and like that stuff is more of like a, you know, Rhode Island. Those are more English names, you know, like from England. Like, we kind of ripped them off. But using the names of the people that you kicked out is, I don't know, rename it, you know? Like, I don't get the mail from my previous owner that lived here. Like, I don't know if that's the same, but similar. You know, rename it. Call it freaking, I don't know where the name Canada came from. It's probably Native American also. Did they call them Native Americans there? Weren't they even worse to them than we were, I think? We had the Trail of Tears, and they just, like, openly attacked them. At least we gave them, like, tax-free Indian reservations where they could, like, you know, go and sell cigarettes, no taxes, or, like, you could build a casino or, like, something like that, and, like, you get free college. I think they were much worse, Canada. I always just assume Canada's worse all across the board. I know Fidel Trudeau is pretty bad, so I assume everybody in Canada that agrees. I assume everybody agrees with him, even though everybody I've ever talked to doesn't. I just assume everybody agrees with him, and that's always fun to assume that, because like when you're like, you must agree with the, you must agree that they should lock bank accounts of anybody protesting. You know, you're Canadian, you must agree. That's just how it is. Like, you got to agree with Trudeau. You can't go against him. I could go on about Trudeau, but I think that's about it. I think I've gone long enough. Guys, if you'd like to hear me ramble more, feel free to comment below. Feel free to put your suggestions of things you'd like to hear me riff on. I can kind of go on about anything. I like to do this kind of stuff. I actually used to do this professionally. The way that my previous job worked was when I worked for Garrett. He edited the videos, so like if we went on like a long drive and we had to like, we were driving like 12 hours, he would sit down in the passenger seat of the truck, put his headphones in and edit, and I would sit in the driver's seat driving, and to keep myself awake, I would just ramble and just go and just like talk about Bitcoin, or like talk about like a conspiracy theory, or like, flat earth, or like, oh man, like we should storm Area 51, and like, I bet you there's some cool stuff there if you do like the Naruto run, and like you can storm Area 51, like it'll be cool. Like I used to do that professionally, so I can do this. I just, topics help, but I don't really need topics. If I went through my Twitter, like everything I have written down in my draft folder of Twitter, I could probably go for about 8 hours of just like pure frustration, anti-government, anti-war, anti-everything. Like, I always like to tell people everything you learned in history class is a lie, and I'll fix it for you. Hardcore history with Cooper Bogetti. But that'll do it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Keep it saucy. I'll see you next time.